quick questions I have for you. Hypothetically, if the NDP were to win the election tomorrow, what would you and your party do to fix what has happened here?
Well, the first thing, we wouldn't privatize. We'd stop the privatization. The second thing is, all of these contracts that have been signed are signed for 15 to 20 years. As those contracts come due, you don't re-sign them, because that's what's killing the hydro rate. So it means to say, yes, some of those companies may end up going down, but it's the only way that you're able to get that under control. The other thing that we are very, very much in favor of, something that should have happened a long time ago, we need to invest in conservation. How many people need better windows and insulation in their houses? How many people need better furnaces? How many people could put passive solar on their roof in order to be able to pre-warm the water or to be able to help generate electricity, whatever it might be? We need to invest in those kinds of programs so that you and I as citizens can become part of finding ways to conserve energy for two reasons. Because every megawatt you don't have to generate is money that we save, but more important, if you're saving energy conservation at home, it means you're not going to have to pay as much hydro. So conservation is the other part.
And go ahead. I'm going to take a couple questions. I just want to ask them one more time. You've been in, 15 years? 25 years. You're ready for parole. My goodness gracious, you must feel like I need to get out. How do you handle when you run into constituents or the general public? They're frustrated. Nothing seems to ever happen. How do you act, or how do you handle that as politicians? I know you just got to pretty well move on, but it comes to a point where, my goodness gracious, I can see the frustration, I can see the blood in your eyes, you're mad, you're frustrated. How do you handle that?
I think the first thing we have as a responsibility as elected officials is to listen, not to run away and say, well, they're mad at me and I'm not going to hear what they got to say. That's the first thing. But the second thing is to try to do the things that help. I've got a number of constituents who got those $19,000 hydro bills. Myself and my office and other members across Ontario were working hard to get those issues resolved so they didn't have to pay those bills. I have a number of constituents, unfortunately, who find themselves in a situation, two people retiring, one of them dies, and they can't afford to keep the house. Why? Because they can't afford to pay the utilities and the taxes. So clearly we've got to change direction and make life more affordable for people, because we are starting to lose what is the Canadian dream.
Okay, questions. I got a couple questions. Come on up here and you're going to tell, come here.
Just a couple.
Yeah, no, just a couple, but I think this is important we hear from the public. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, who do you think Kathleen Wynne will be selling Hydro 1 to? It'll be all to her Liberal friends.
I'll let you comment.
Well, it's pretty well, she's saying who's going to sell, who's Kathleen Wynne going to sell it to? It will be her Liberal friends. They have said only 60% will be sold. Well, that, the way I figure it, means to say we lose our control. But they're saying only 10% to one buyer. What do you think those 6 or 8 buyers are going to do? They're going to create a consortium to do what it is that they want. When's the last time you put gas in your truck or car? I got an F-150. Last couple of days? Did you look at the price of the barrel? Did you look at the price of the pump? That's what the OEB is doing to us. The price of the barrel has gone down and the price of gas is still more than it's worth of the barrel. So I just say we can't afford what this government is doing. For them to argue the OEB is the solution is wrong.
All right, I got 2 questions quick.
When are they going to stop talking about conservation? Everybody's going hungry in the dark as it is. We don't need to conserve anymore. We have to stop overcharging for something we have an abundance of. Yes! We're giving it away. Yes! We're giving it away, and then we're turning around and charging us for stuff that we have an abundance of. It is called extortion. The mob would be ashamed.
I really see the passion there.
Well, listen, I'm going to disagree with you. How many politicians you ever see do that? I agree with you that we're being squeezed and we can't afford to make ends meet. But if we can put in place real conservation programs who allow citizens to be able to change your furnace, insulate their windows, do whatever it is, it will reduce their consumption if you do it in a way that the person doesn't have to outlay the money. There's ways of doing that.
We're already doing that.
Correct. He answered the question. Go ahead, Ade.
Mr. Bisson, thank you for coming. With respect, it's my view that the opposition parties have as much power as we do here, which is zero power. It seems to me that the only solution, the only people who can help us are the courts. So would you be willing to reach across the aisles, work with the PC party, and support the QP lawsuit to stop the sale of Hydro One, because it seems to me that only the courts can intervene. The opposition parties have no power.
Oh no, again, I'm going to disagree with you. Opposition parties and every member of the Assembly have abilities to do things. For example, when the government made the announcement of the privatization of Hydro One on Thursday, they did that away from Queen's Park. They locked up the media, they locked up the 3 people you're allowed to send, and they did it during question period. We as a party protested. We did what we had to do in the legislature to disrupt the question period, because we were sending a message that we're going to pull all of the stops and we're going to do what we have to do in order to turn this thing around. The Conservatives stayed. They asked questions. I don't think the Tories are that upset about privatization of Hydro One. I have a lot of things, in fact, I have a lot of things in common that I can work with the Conservatives on, but when it comes to privatization, go and read Randy Hilliard's website. He says the answer is to privatize Hydro One, and I don't believe that's the answer.
What can the Lieutenant Governor do? Can they stop the sale of Hydro One because it's against the law? Where's the law in this province?
You want to answer that or what?
Well, I'll answer part of the other question, which is the lawsuit. QP Ontario is going to court. That is one option, and we obviously support that, as you do here. As far as the law, the Lieutenant Governor, constitutionally, if he was to stop a law of the province, it would be called the constitutional crisis. The power resides in the legislature, but more importantly, it resides with you. As you as citizens organize. Remember, Mike Harris tried to do this some years ago. Ernie Eves tried to do this some years ago. He's the guy who said, when I make up my mind and I do something, I do it, and you're not going to change my mind. Well, guess what? Who changed his mind? It was you, the public. It was you that organized across this province in order to say, no, don't do this, and the government backed down. So the power is with you, and yes, as an opposition, we have things that we can do, the Conservatives and New Democrats, together and individually, to be able to slow this thing down, to put some pressure on them, and to be able to turn them around in some fashion.
All right, one quick one, that's it. Real quick, and that's it. I got to get Mr. Leach up here and Mr. Lilly.
I don't want to conserve any electricity. I want to turn on every TV, every appliance, everything in my house. I want to waste it to the ends of the earth because we have an abundance of clean, green energy that should be dirty, dirty cheap. And it used to be dirty cheap. So why would I have to conserve if we have an abundance of this energy that should be dirty cheap, that's very, very green? Not only that, when we conserve, there's less money for the bureaucracy to feed the needs of the growing bureaucracy that ought to stop growing.
So your question, was that a comment?
Why should I have to conserve?
But I agree, I appreciate you coming out. He took his time, he's going to the airport right now. He's got a conference call, I believe, at 2, so you're going to have to depart. We really appreciate you coming out. We're certainly on your side as it relates to fighting the good fight. Give a big round of applause. All right, again, we've got a green sheet over here.